Tonight on To The Point, California's transgender student athlete debate.
They're being disenfranchised by boys, biological boys.
Why the U.S. Department of Justice is now threatening legal action against school districts, and how the state is fighting back. Plus, a local teen defending her trans competitor after they share the podium.
How could a world be so cruel to a 16-year-old girl, you know?
Her message about the policies currently in place. California's high-speed rail under scrutiny. How a recent bill could add to the rising costs. And Carlos Dominguez back on the stand in the Davis stabbings trial. Why he possibly did not remember the crimes.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. Tonight, the Trump administration is increasing its pressure on California schools as they continue to follow state law and allow transgender student athletes to compete in girls' sports. The Department of Justice is now threatening legal action against districts. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen joins us in studio with what those threats mean and also how State Department of Education is responding.
Alex, in the last few hours, the State Department of Education sent a letter to school districts saying they would be responding to the DOJ on behalf of all districts in the state. A letter yesterday, the DOJ gave districts a deadline of June 9th to change their rules that allow transgender athletes in girls' sports. I spoke with a U.S. attorney who started this push while he was a state assembly member.
Look, this isn't a very complicated issue.
U.S. Attorney Bill Essayli has been critical about transgender student athletes participating in girls' sports and even introduced legislation earlier this year to reverse the California law that allows trans athletes to participate in sports aligned with their gender identity. Most recently, trans student athlete A.B. Hernandez won gold in 2 girls' track and field finals. Under a new CIF pilot policy, A.B. shared a podium with her cisgender competitor.
Women and girls have rights. They have rights to have their own sports teams, to compete on their own teams, and to win their own trophies.
In response on Monday, the Department of Justice sent this letter to California school districts within the California Interscholastic Federation demanding them not to implement a CIF bylaw that would allow trans athletes in girls' sports. The letter says districts have until June 9th to comply or they'll face legal liability.
We've already gotten involved in one lawsuit against Riverside Unified School District. We're looking at another school district, which is Jurupa Unified School District. And I hope the CIF officials take the letters very seriously because we mean business.
In response, the California Department of Education sent this letter to school districts Tuesday saying in part, the DOJ's assertions are not law and the letter cannot be an enforcement mechanism. They will respond to the DOJ by the deadline on behalf of all California public school districts. In a recent interview with ABC 10, the state's superintendent, Tony Thurmond, reiterated the state's focus on protecting trans students.
And we've made it clear, in California, we follow the law. And the law says that transgender athletes have the right to participate in these events. And we will continue to preserve that right and protect that right.
Among the school districts impacted by the DOJ's demand, the Sacramento City Unified School District confirmed with ABC 10 it has received the State Department of Education's letter and is waiting for further guidance.
I also reached out to the CIF for a response to the DOJ's letter, but I did not hear back in time for this story. A spokesperson with the governor's office says active transgender student athletes in the K-12 public school system is estimated to be in the single digits. Alex.
All right, Jeannie, thank you. And tonight we're also hearing from a West Sacramento student who shared the podium with A.B. Hernandez at the controversial track final. River City High School senior Brooke White took home second place in the girls' long jump. She stood alongside Hernandez on the podium. The two even shared a hug after the results were announced. Several people attended the meet in protest of Hernandez's participation. White says the political controversy and public scrutiny surrounding the meet made the experience more emotionally charged.
I don't think that she deserves this hate. A.B. Hernandez, she doesn't deserve any of the hate. I don't believe that any of us deserve that extra load of stress. I know that me personally, I got pretty choked up about it, just hearing the hate. How could a world be so cruel to a 16-year-old girl? I think that the way that CIF handled it was very graceful. They allowed her to compete and wear the same medal as I'm wearing right now, just as she deserves it.
While Hernandez herself has not publicly spoken, her mother did release a statement saying, "I see my child being attacked, not for wrongdoing, but simply for being who they are. My child has competed fairly in full compliance with California law and athletic policy." Tonight, California's high-speed rail project is back in the spotlight. The state Senate just advanced a bill that, if passed, would study the potential economic benefits of the project. SB 545, authored by State Senator Dave Cortese, would require the state to study the economic benefits tied to the high-speed rail project and its connecting lines. So the bill also mandates that if local agencies form infrastructure districts to help fund the rail's construction, most of that revenue must be spent on projects within those communities. Supporters say the measure will help the rail project deliver real economic benefits where it's needed most, but opponents argue it could add to the already ballooning costs of the project.
It's another waste of money. It's studying $700,000 thrown down the tubes, because what they're doing is they're going to study the economic impact from Merced, the train from Merced to Bakersfield. End of the day, we keep spending billions and billions of dollars on this train that everybody knows, as proposed, will never be built.
In a statement, Senator Dave Cortese says the bill sets the foundation for increasing commercial and residential development investment along the high-speed rail corridor to create jobs, desperately needed housing, attract businesses, and generate new revenue streams that will help fund a lot of things. That now heads to the Assembly for a vote. And we have an in-depth look at the high-speed rail project on the ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. The To The Point team examines what progress has been made and the many challenges ahead. You can find it on the home screen. All you have to do is just download it to your TV and watch it for free. California is taking steps to improve clean air efforts. The California Air Resources Board, or CARB, launched a mobile monitoring initiative today, and it's part of an effort to collect neighborhood-level air pollution data in communities that are heavily burdened by pollution. So starting this month, vehicles and mobile laboratories will be deployed across 64 California communities, including those in Sacramento, Solano, and San Joaquin County.
These are communities that we're able to then provide information to them about the air quality in their area so that they can help understand it, develop local plans to how to address pollution in that area, and then also help us and the local air districts understand so we can help target our regulations.
CARB says the data will be released to the public in June of 2026. They hope it will be used to identify hotspots and inform future policies to reduce emissions. Turning to Washington now, where Republican pushback is growing over President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. Here's Perry Russum with the details.
President Trump today ramping up his attacks on Republican Senator Rand Paul, one of the holdouts opposing his big, beautiful budget bill. Trump accusing Paul of voting no on everything, saying the senator has very little understanding of the bill.
I am for a lot of the bill, but I can't in good conscience give up every principle that I stand for and every principle that I was elected upon, and that's that we can't accumulate more debt.
As the bill is currently constructed, it promises to slash federal spending by $1.5 trillion. At the same time, by some estimates, it adds $3.8 trillion to the national deficit over the next 10 years, with cuts to Medicaid and food assistance. Paul says the cuts do not go far enough, calling them wimpy and anemic.
3 or 4 of us are very concerned about the spending and the debt ceiling.
The White House claims the bill will not add to the deficit.
We are very confident in our own economic analyses of this bill.
Trump has been working the phones, meeting with senators to rally their support. The bill's passage is key to enacting the president's agenda.
There's probably 53 Republican senators who would like to see some changes.
Whatever changes the Senate makes will then have to be approved in the House. According to the Nonpartisan Budget Office, more than 8 million Americans are projected to lose Medicaid coverage. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer calls the bill a cruel, cynical attack on Americans' health care.
Senate Republicans can make jokes all they want that we're going to die anyway. But for many working-class Americans, health care is the difference between life and death.
Elon Musk, who is no longer a part of the administration, speaking out today against the bill. He says it will massively increase the deficit, saying it will burden Americans with crushingly unsustainable debt. He calls the bill a disgusting abomination. Perry Russum, ABC News, Washington.
Still ahead on To The Point, Carlos Dominguez takes the stand again in the Davis stabbings trial, what he had to say to the jury today. Plus, as the CDC changes its COVID vaccine guidelines, what it means for your next shot.
And it was a warm day in the 90s. Today made it to 90 in Sacramento, and you know what? We've got another similar day on the way for tomorrow. We'll talk about that forecast after the break.
Welcome back in. You're taking a live look over West Sacramento, where the A's are playing tonight. Another beautiful and sunny day. Brendan, I have to say, went outside for a walk. It was absolutely beautiful. Not too hot, not too cold, actually just perfect.
Yeah, warm, right? I mean, this is what we expect when we move into the month of June. Right near 90 in Sacramento, 92 Stockton, 89 in Modesto, 60s out along the coast, 76 up in Tahoe. A cooler than normal day, however, down across much of Southern California, particularly along the coast. That's because we have a little bit of a split pattern here. It's been warm and dry up here in the southern half of the state. We've had some thunder down there, which of course is always a little bit of a concern for sparking new fires. So far, that is all good right now. But these storms are going to stay well to our south up here in Northern California. We've had a few showers down near Yosemite. Other than that, that is all we've seen this afternoon. Currently 87 in Sacramento, 89 in Stockton, 88 Manteca, Modesto, and Tracy, 81 Fairfield, 87 Vacaville, 70s and 80s in the foothills, 70s up in the high country as well. We've got a delta breeze developing 10 to 20 miles per hour across the valley and delta at this hour. If you're off to the A's game, we'll be in those mid 80s at the top of the hour, upper 70s by 8 o'clock, and towards the end of the game, upper 60s and low 70s. Hopefully it can be a win tonight. We've got quite the losing streak. We're trying to break 57 in Sacramento Wednesday morning, 57 in Stockton, 60 in Modesto, a mild overnight, topping out very similar to where we were today in the low 90s once again across the valley tomorrow afternoon. So warm, running about 5+ degrees warmer than normal for the time of year. A little bit of a northerly breeze down the valley through the overnight hours, and then another strong delta breeze expected Wednesday evening. So that little bit of a breeze, especially during the morning hours, is leading to some elevated fire danger. And then as we start going into the evening hours and that delta breeze picks up, there's that brief period where we have quite a bit of wind, but it's still pretty dry and warm out there. So fire danger is just going to remain elevated over the next 10 days, and temperature-wise doesn't vary that much, upper 80s to mid 90s, Alex.
Next on To the Point, Carlos Dominguez takes the stand again in his own murder trial. What he's saying about the day of the Davis stabbings, plus weekend chaos at a Sacramento park, what neighbors are calling for, and how city officials are responding. It was a big day for the prosecution as they questioned Carlos Dominguez in his own murder trial. The former UC Davis student is accused of stabbing and killing 2 men and also stabbing a woman back in 2023. ABC 10's Roxanne Elias spent the day in court and has more on what was said.
It was all eyes on Carlos Dominguez as jurors heard his testimony for a second day during his trial. After hours of questioning on Monday, the defense wrapped up its direct examination on Tuesday, with Dominguez recalling when he spoke with 2 detectives with the Davis Police Department.
What do you specifically remember talking about?
I just remember them telling me that I had stabbed 3 people and that I had killed 2 people and attempted to kill another.
The defense is arguing that Dominguez was suffering from untreated schizophrenia. Dominguez says he didn't realize he had stabbed real people until he was treated with medication at the Atascadero State Hospital.
I started to realize that the people that I thought were shadow shapeshifters that I had stabbed were actual people.
After about 30 minutes of direct examination, it was the prosecution's turn to cross-examine. And they wasted no time getting straight to the point.
You killed David Breaux because you were angry, correct?
Are you asking if I remember that or if I accept that?
You killed him because you were angry, right?
I don't remember killing him.
Dominguez replied no to all the stabbings, and he says he does not remember any of them. The prosecution is now trying to prove that the former UC Davis student was angry about being kicked out of school and the breakup with his girlfriend. And that's why he began attacking people. They also questioned him about the day Davis police officers stopped him as he was headed home after going to a nearby Safeway with the knife inside a bag.
The reason we're talking to you right now is, are you aware of what's been going on in the city? The homicides and stuff?
The day ended early on Tuesday, with Dominguez finishing his testimony on the witness stand.
In Sacramento, Roxanne Elias, ABC 10.
The trial resumes Thursday at 9:30. We streamed Carlos Dominguez's full testimony, and you can watch it on the ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. You can download it for free straight to your TV. Neighbors in Sacramento's Land Park neighborhood are calling on city leaders to crack down on what they describe as dangerous and disruptive activity at William the William Land Regional Park, They say street racing, unpermitted parties, and illegal vendors have taken over parts of the park, turning a once peaceful space into a weekend of hotspots for chaos. More than 300 people have signed an online petition calling for reduced speed limits, a stronger park ranger presence, and strict enforcement of rules that are already on the books.
Weekends, holidays, and it is just packed with cars, double parking, triple parking, blocking the roadway, people speeding through, doing donuts, loud amplified music, DJs, which are not even allowed, alcohol consumption, which is also not allowed in the park.
City officials say they are aware of the issue and have deployed a mobile surveillance trailer to the area. Neighbors say it is not enough, though. They are calling for more patrols, citations, and traffic calming measures before someone gets seriously hurt. As we've been reporting on ABC 10, the CDC just updated its COVID-19 vaccine recommendations, and a lot of people are asking, what does this mean for them? Reporter Shannon Handy talked with a doctor to break down how it could affect your access to the vaccine.
As of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC recommended immunization schedule.
On the same day, Health and Human Services Director Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made that announcement, the CDC published an update on its website. I checked, and instead of recommending the vaccine for healthy children, the agency now says they may get it. For pregnant women, it lists the vaccine as having no guidance or not applicable.
We've moved from a very aggressive vaccination schedule with COVID.
Dr. Sogol Ash specializes in functional medicine. I asked her about what this change means, specifically as it relates to insurance. Under the Affordable Care Act, providers are required to cover vaccines recommended by the CDC.
During the pandemic, it was much easier to get vaccinated and have it covered or get treatment for COVID like Paxlovid, things like that, when it's recommended. But when something's not recommended, then we kind of go into a different category where people might be having to pay cash for things like a vaccine or certain labs or certain medications.
So far, insurance companies have not announced a shift in coverage. It's also important to note the CDC still broadly recommends COVID-19 vaccines for moderately or severely immunocompromised children, in addition to most adults. What about vaccine availability? Some experts say it's too soon to tell if the changes will make the vaccine harder to find, though CVS, the nation's largest pharmacy chain, did tell me they do have it. For some, that's a critical part of all this right now, as a new variant that originated in China is spreading here in the U.S. Dr. Ash tells me symptoms are similar to prior variants, adding the latest COVID-19 vaccine does protect against it.
So the current vaccines, especially the ones that target, the Omicron subvariants, are expected to protect against the severe outcomes from this new strain.
As the situation remains fluid, health officials are advising the public to stay informed about the latest recommendations and also make sure that you consult with your healthcare provider for personalized advice. All right, on the other side of the break, Fix 50 is delayed yet again. What's holding up the project and when it could be completed. All right, before we go, Fix 50 is running behind schedule again. Caltrans now says the project will take a full year longer than planned. Caltrans says the delays began when crews began digging and they discovered problems that weren't visible on paper. They now estimate the project to be completed by July of 2026.
But as soon as the crews started working on the project, they were able to see that there were some areas that needed deeper fixes, that needed more time to work on them.
Costs has also climbed from $483 million to more than $529 million, funded mainly through SB1, the state's gas tax. Caltrans says most of the major work will be done this year, with landscaping, lighting, and the final touch-ups done in 2026. As always, thank you so much for watching and for inviting us into your home. If you have something that you think me and the team should be looking into, you can always email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. And don't forget, you can always stream To The Point or stories that you missed here on our free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app.